So hello YouTube, this is my first video on URg Delver. I won the last challenge on Saturday, on 9th January, and I want to take this as an opportunity to talk about the deck, and I hope you will learn something about it. Okay, so I played basically the shell which was promoted by Rich Kelly, I think 2 or 3 months ago. And the most special feature is the two basic lands. And this is what I really liked. Before that, the player Silvia Vataro played this, and this is the first time where I started playing this. And the reason why I think it's good as a playstyle is because you cannot get Wastelanded out of the game that easily. I have to say now, I think it's not generally more powerful than a different shell. It's just different playstyle wise. For example, you can also play normal URg Delver with non-basic lands, and maybe Tamagotchi or something like that, and it can also put up results. Okay, so I think this is the first decision you have to make, whether you play this basic land shell or not. And if you do, then you have made a couple of choices which affects your gameplay. First is that you want to fetch island first a lot of the time, and then it depends on the rest of the cards you have, sometimes volcanic, sometimes mountain, sometimes even tropical, but not that much. The basic mountain basically says that you don't play Tamagotchi, instead you play Young Pyromancer, which is also a very good threat. It's a bit more fragile than Tamagotchi, but if it lives 1 or 2 turns, it's much better than Tamagotchi. But that's always your secondary plan. So this is one package, and because of the two basic lands, you only have 2 tropicals. I have to say now that the mana sometimes doesn't work as smooth as with only non-basic lands. That is because island tropical, when you have this, doesn't cast Arcanist. Island Wasteland doesn't cast Arcanist, obviously. Mountain, island, when you fetch basics for the first 2 turns and have a Wasteland as your 3rd land, doesn't cast Oko. Mountain as your single land with cantrips doesn't cast anything from your hand in your opening hand. So there are some downsides. And the major upside is that you don't get Wastelanded out of the game immediately. Or something which is not that common, but you don't get Blood Moon that easy, but when Blood Moon comes early, it still kills you probably. Yeah, there are some minor upsides, I guess. So this is about the mana base, and you have to learn fetching properly. Sometimes it's correct to fetch non-basics nonetheless to make your mid-game more smooth, and so on. So I said that Young Pyromancer is a secondary threat, I guess, in power terms, and Red Hot Arcanist is the single-handedly the best threat in the deck. So your Dream Start is having a cantrip on turn 1 or a Delver. It doesn't matter really. Delver gets killed sometimes, sometimes not. cantrips are good for setting up, but the dream scenario is having this on turn 2 and connecting on turn 3 with it. But everybody knows that that is a very good and dangerous card for the opponent. Okay, so let's see what's next. Oko in the deck has a very unique role, I think, because it's not that powerful in a snow control shell. It just provides answers to Chalice and, let's say, a Snaring Bridge and Aether Vial maybe, but then you have to be careful to not lose it immediately. But once you're behind on the board, it becomes weak. And you have to keep that in mind, that you have to balance the game for it to work. As a win condition, I think it is good, but it is not something which is too good for Legacy, at least in the Delver shell, because you make a 3/3 every 2 turns, which is fine. It has its insane moments, but overall, it's a good approach for certain situations, but it's not breaking the deck to a tier 0 level. Next up, I mean, the rest is kind of stuff. You have the cantrips. I play a 12. I guess a little bit more average is 11, but with the Young Pyromancer, it's good to have a 12 cantrip. Sometimes I bought out one. I will talk about this later. And it makes your deck more smooth, I guess. But it's just a minor difference. 6 burn spells, I think, are A, stock, but also B, good. I played only 5 for a long time. But you have to answer things like Dreadhorde Arcanist, or you die, or you have to answer like Allosaurus Shepherd, or you die a lot of the time. So 6 is the better choice, I think. So Delver, well, it's not the card like 2 or 3 years ago. It's good, and you have these tempo draws, but the power level did climb, and this makes Delver a little bit weaker, and you have to have certain situations for it to work as intended, I guess. So another specialty of this list is that I only play 1 Force of Negation, and I'm not really sure about it, whether I should play a second. It does work for me very good, I guess, so I won't change it. But it's also a minor difference. If you play 2, you're a bit better game 1 against combo decks, and if you play only 1, you're worse. Not a major difference. So let's head on to the sideboard. I guess this is in part nothing new, but this is only my view on the deck. And okay, so what do we have? 3 Pyroblast effects is the minimum. Some people play 4, but I think 3 is better for now, because sometimes you can flood on it, and some decks need different answers, I guess, and you don't have unlimited space. So I like 3 for now, because I will put all the cards I definitely want on the right, okay? Elves is a very common matchup right now, and the matchup, I will talk about this later, usually you will win 2 ways. Either you have this card and connect with it a lot, or you have these cards and 2 for 1 or 3 for 1 then. Otherwise, Elves is very resilient and will eventually overcome you because you don't have a fast enough clock. I mean, there are these draws where you put Delver on 1 days, the first Elf, put the Delver down, and outright kill them, but this is a bit corner case. So I'm not really sure about the split yet. This is better with Young Paramount, not with Red Hat Arcanist. And this one is better against 2 toughness creatures, obviously. Let's say Death in Texas is maybe a reason, and Goblin Rebel Master or something like that, which comes up sometimes. So I run the split for now, and I'm happy with it so far. I don't prefer. They have their advantages and their disadvantages. I also run this split, mainly because this is sometimes better against artifacts, and this is sometimes better because it can kill a creature. For example, against elves, I want to have an extra removal spell, so I can play 2 Grudges, and sometimes, like, I don't know, maybe Death in Texas, but Upgrade is also good there, but maybe Echo Ursa, yeah, Grudge is better. Okay, next up, what do we have? I definitely want 1 Submerge, and I think the mirror is one reason, but the better reason for me is the Elves matchup. Early interaction is key. Sometimes you have a lot of cantrips and you die to Alessandro Shepherd if you don't remove it. So this is another way to interact with them early. I had 2 in the list and I quite like 2. Maybe I will add 1 again, but so far I don't know what to cut. So I'll leave it at 1 for now. But I can also recommend 2. Force of Negation is just against combo decks, nothing to say here to have a second. So then I can highly recommend 2 Clothless. This is your control killer card, and also maybe something like lands if you resolve it, but mainly Snoko. It's a card which wins you the game in the long run, not under all circumstances, but I recommend 2, really. Then, concerning the snow matchup, at least the versions which have more than 2 Uros, I want a third way to remove Uro, because you cannot rely always on 2 Clothless. So I like a third one. Sometimes I have Soulguide Lantern, which is better here, but Soulguide Lantern has other weaknesses, like being a little more clunky. So for fast graveyard decks, I like Surgical a bit better. But it's definitely something which can be switched around and cut. But for now, I like these slots. And there is also, I will talk about this later in this matchups, where I bring it in, because I do maybe a little more unusual stuff with it. Last but not least, I have these 2 libraries. Normally I played 1, but after the last challenge, I expected a little more like this Jeskai Arcanist mentor builds, and I wanted to have another anti-blue control card. But I'm not 100% sure that this will really help them in a matchup. Maybe it would also be good to have enchantment removal, like lands is one thing, Valakut exploration is problematic, maybe some kind of disenchant effect can be good. Okay, so this is the deck, and this is the first video on URg Delver, and I will add more videos about the certain matchups, which is yeah, an important part, and also some gameplay videos. I hope you enjoyed this. I want to keep this highly informative and would love to see some feedback. Bye.